Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm your English teacher Zia. I hope that you're doing well and all ready and set for grade 7. Now, my dear learners, we are on our unit number 4 and we are going to take up an SLO from reading and critical thinking, and this is our lecture number 4B. So let's read our students' learning outcome. It says, read an extensive range of fiction and non-fiction books and guess the meaning of the words and phrases in the text. So we are going to read an extensive range of fiction and non-fiction books, ranging from easy to difficult, and we are going to guess the meaning of the words and phrases that are unfamiliar to us. And we will be guessing the meaning for using some techniques. It could be any text that we can have. So we will be dealing with both fictional and non-fictional genres, and we are going to find the meaning of words and phrases. So now, let's move on to our vertical linkage. Here, you can see this SLO is linked with the previous grade's students' learning outcome covering the same kind of thing. Now, in this video lesson, we will be taking up grade 7's SLO, which is one step further and much detailed. So now, time to storm your brains a little bit. I need you to answer this question: that have you ever read any story or short story or anything in particular of non-fiction genre, and did you find any difficulty in finding out the meanings of different words and phrases? So think about it so that we can move on further for our topic, which is about finding meanings in both fictional and non-fictional text, meanings and phrases. Now, let's deal with fiction first. So, fiction is a type of text that tells made-up stories. These stories come from the author's imagination and can include things like fairy tales, mysteries, and adventures. Fiction books have characters, settings, and plots that are not real, even though they might seem realistic. So, what do we understand by this? First, fiction is a type of text, and they are made up stories. Mostly they are imaginative, and they include different kind of texts like fairy tales, mysteries, and adventures. Fiction books have characters. You can find characters in your books, a setting, and different plots. Now, the plots can be real or they seem real or realistic. Examples of fiction are Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling, Charlotte's Web by E.M. White, or The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. So all these books, they are of the fictional category, or if you classify them, you would classify it as fiction. And further, they have different subgenres like mysteries, folk tales, fairy tales, etc. So now, let's talk about the opposite of fiction, which is non-fiction. Now, non-fiction is a type of text that provides factual information that is based on facts. These texts are about real people, events, places, and facts. Examples of non-fiction include biographies, history books, science articles, and essays, and so on. Non-fiction helps us learn about the world around us, and they are realistic. For example, The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank and A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. So these two books are of the non-fiction category. Now let's talk about an example over here. Here you have a passage with a couple of words highlighted. Why? Because you need to find out the meaning of these unfamiliar words or phrase. So imagine you're reading a book about a young explorer in a thick jungle. The writer talks about the explorer hearing a cacophony of sounds. From the story, you can figure out that cacophony means a lot of noisy sounds all mixed up. By noticing how the word fits with the jungle scene and how the explorer reacts, you can understand what it means without having to check a dictionary. So, this is exactly our students' learning outcome, to read extensive range of fiction and non-fiction and to identify or guess the meaning of any word that's coming up before you which you're not familiar with. It could be any word or phrase. How do you do it? You need to see the whole context, the setting, and everything around the text to guess the meaning of that particular word or phrase, just like we did in the example over here. So, now, how do you guess meaning of a word? We will be using context clues. Now, identifying hints within the text that provide insight into the meaning of unfamiliar words. Context clues are the clues or hints that are founded in the text, and you need to find them out by reading the whole, understanding the whole context. And you can find so many hints that lead you to the meaning of the unfamiliar word or phrase. Now, critical thinking is also a very important trick. So, analyzing the relationships between words and their surroundings to make educated guesses about meanings. So, you will relate the words with their surroundings, with the setting, to make a guess about the meaning. So, you will be thinking critically to look for the meaning of the word. Vocabulary expansion is another very informative and a very good tip. It helps you to build a broader vocabulary by encountering new words in diverse literary contexts. So, now the last one is very important. You need to read more and develop your vocabulary. Make a journal. Write all the difficult words that you encountered along with their meanings and sentences. So keep this journal, expand your vocabulary. So next time if you come across any kind of different text, whether it's from fiction or non-fiction, you will have so many words at your disposal to look for the meaning. Now, let's read our text of the lesson and then we will answer some questions at the end. So this is our main lesson. A long time ago in China, a boy named Ping lived with his parents in a wooden cottage in countryside village. Their house was small, but their garden was always full of beautiful flowers and other plants. Ping's mother had planted the garden before Ping was born. She taught him everything she knew about gardening. Ping loves gardening. Anything he plants bursts into bloom. Up came flowers, bushes, and even big fruit trees, as if by magic. Everyone in the kingdom loved flowers too. They planted them everywhere, and the air smelled like perfume. On the other hand, the emperor of China loved birds and animals, but flowers most of all, and he tended his own garden every day. But the emperor of China was growing old and had no son. He was worried about who would become the next emperor. He needed to choose a successor to the throne. Who would his successor be, and how would the emperor choose? Because the emperor loved flowers so much, he decided to let the flowers choose. The next day, a proclamation was issued. All the children in the land were to come to the palace. There they would be given special flower seeds by the emperor. The emperor declared, "Whoever can show me their best in a year's time," he said, "will succeed me to the throne." The news created great excitement throughout the land. Children from all over the country swarmed to the place to get their flower seeds. Now, before moving on to the next page, try to focus on this while reading question that why did the emperor let the flowers choose his successor to the throne. And meanwhile, I have highlighted some words over here while reading. Now you need to find the meaning of these words according to the different kind of techniques we talked about, like context clue, critical thinking, and your vocabulary expansion. Now moving on to the next page, to the next part of the lesson. All the parents wanted their children to be chosen by the emperor, and all the children hoped they would be chosen too. When Ping received his seeds from the emperor, he was the happiest child of all. He was sure he could grow the most beautiful flower. Ping filled a flower pot with rich soil. He planted the seed in it very carefully. He watered it every day. He couldn't wait to see it sprout, grow, and blossom into a beautiful flower. Day after day passed, but nothing grew in his pot. Ping was very worried. He put new soil into a bigger pot. Then he transferred the seed into the rich black soil. For another 2 months, he waited. Still, nothing happened. By and by, the whole year passed. Spring came, and all the children put in their clothes to greet the emperor. Now, again, you would find the meaning of this word according to the techniques. They rushed to the palace with their beautiful flowers. I eagerly hoped to be chosen. Ping was ashamed of his empty pot. He thought the other children would laugh at him because for once he couldn't get a flower to grow. His clever friend ran by holding a great big plant. Ping, he said, you're not really going to the emperor with an empty pot, are you? Couldn't you grow a great big flower like mine? I've grown lots of flowers better than yours, Ping said. It's just this seed that won't grow. Ping's father overheard this and said, you did your best, and your best is good enough to present to the emperor. Holding the empty pot in his hands, Ping went straight away to the palace. The emperor was looking at the flowers slowly, one by one. How beautiful all the flowers were. But the emperor was frowning and did not say a word. Finally, he came to Ping. Ping hung his head in shame, expecting to be punished. The emperor asked him, why did you bring an empty pot? Ping started to cry and replied, I planted the seed you gave me, and I watered it every day, but it didn't sprout. I put it in a better pot with better soil, but still it didn't sprout. I tended it all year long, but nothing grew. So today I had to bring an empty pot without a flower. It was the best I could do. When the emperor heard these words, a smile slowly spread over his face, and he put his arm around Ping. Then he exclaimed to one and all, I have found him. I have found the one person worthy of being emperor. So, now my dear learners, you will answer these while reading questions while we are reading the text. Why do you think Ping's seed is not growing into a beautiful flower? And does anyone want to change their prediction about the story? Who do you think will be the next emperor? So while you're reading this text, you could come up with different theories about and different predictions about the story. Now, where you got your seed from, I don't know. For the seeds I gave you had all been cooked, so it was impossible for any of them to grow. I admire Ping's great courage to appear before me with the empty pot, and now I reward him with my entire kingdom and make him emperor of all the land. Ping's courage to present the truth showed his integrity and honesty despite the fear of being laughed at or punished. The emperor recognized and rewarded Ping's moral courage, choosing him as the worthy successor to the throne. The story teaches us that being true to oneself and doing what is right, even in difficult situations, can lead to great rewards and recognition. So, now, you can find the meaning of these words if you're not familiar with them using the context. And the post-reading question is, how did the other children grow beautiful flowers? Was it right or wrong for them to try other seeds? So this is our post-reading question. After reading the lesson and highlighted words for you to find them out using the context clues, now let's move on to our next slide, which is about our simulation link that you could play anytime to learn more about context clues and finding meanings for unfamiliar words and phrases. Now, for your classroom activity, you need to answer these 2 comprehension questions. And then for your homework, for your worksheet, this will be distributed among you so that you can solve it. Tell that whether the written passage is fiction or non-fiction. Now, for the homework, you need to read the passage and guess meaning of unfamiliar words and phrases from it. So, at the end, I'd like to introduce some resources before you. All these resources are available in the description of the video. You can access them easily. So, my dear learners, thank you for listening. I hope that you had great time learning about how we can find meanings of unfamiliar words and phrases in both the fiction and non-fiction genre. We also read our lesson and highlighted words for you to find out, and also followed by some while reading questions that you need to be thinking about critically. Till the next video lesson, Allah Hafiz.